You already know it's your boy Alco. We here with Industry Most Wanted. Let's get to it.
The rap gang like the dope gang. It started uptown like the folk train. Old things turn to new things. Cash rules everything around me like Wu-Tang.
Hey, what's going on, man? It is your girl, TampaMystic, and where we at?
Industries.
We most.
The big one, not the little one. Industry's Most Wanted. I heard we got the big homie, not the little one. Alco checking in. What is going on, family? How you doing?
It's working, getting to it.
Boom. Put your headphones on if you don't mind. I want to make sure you could talk into that mic and hear that good audio. You feel the difference? You felt that? You felt that, didn't you?
That felt good.
Well, listen, bro, it's definitely a pleasure to have you here. We got a lot to talk about because he out here getting to it. Give us a brief introduction of yourself.
Well, if you don't already know, I go by the name of Alco. I'm from Bronx, New York. I've been working in this music industry for a good little minute, putting in my work and stuff, and it's just time. Just that level up is coming. We outside, man, everywhere.
Facts, and you've definitely have accomplished a lot. You're still accomplishing a lot. So congratulations on all the moves.
I appreciate that.
Let's take it back though to growing up in New York. I feel like that's where a lot of this stuff originated from. I'm always going to pay homage to New York. Like I said, I got my radio start with DJ Clue many years ago. So,
nice.
Growing up out there in New York, what was that like for you?
I mean, it was just a whole bunch of culture. You know, I always felt like I was born in hip hop because I'm from the Bronx, and that's like the whole element of where it came from. So, you know, it's just everything's in your face. New York is just a different vibe. You grow up fast because you got to be always on point.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, always inspired by so many big artists that came out of New York.
It's very fast paced up there. I've spent a lot of time traveling back and forth up there in my previous line of work. MetLife was one of my clients, so I was up and back and forth with them a lot. But do you feel like being in a fast-paced environment also helps contribute to some of your, you know, how you rise up in the industry? Yeah,
because you take some of those tactics and then you bring them in different areas and you adjust and you just it's a certain mindset. It's a hustler mindset, and it just makes things easier.
100%. You've been doing this for over a decade.
Yes.
I commend you for that. Like my business partner, OG Bigger Rankin, says you are not seasoned in this business until you at least been doing it for a decade because there's a lot to learn.
It's a fact.
What's been keeping you doing it for so long? What's motivating you?
The love. I've always loved hip hop, loved the music game. I've always been inspired with it since I was a little kid. Like, you know, as I see old videos of myself, like like enjoying hip hop when I was like 3, 4, 5 years old, it's just always been in me. So I feel like when it's something you love to do, it doesn't feel like it's a job. It just feels like it's your calling. You know, you know, of course you're gonna make money, you're gonna have success through the ups and through the downs and stuff like that. But if you love it and you really, it becomes a part of you. It doesn't feel like you're doing it just to do it.
Listen, I couldn't agree more. What I do. Shout out to myself. I won Personality of the Year last night at the SEA Awards.
Congrats.
And I feel like, not to brag, but I feel like I've earned that because I've done thousands of interviews. You know what I'm saying? And it's because it's a passion for me. Same thing with you. You've, again, seen so much success. You're continuing to see success. We have to root for ourselves and cheer ourselves on.
That's a fact.
Because most other people ain't going to clap for you.
You got to do it for yourself. If you don't, then nobody else will.
I'm going to clap for you right now.
I appreciate that.
Y'all clap for him one time. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Nah, that is really dope, man. Again, so being from the Bronx, excuse me, now out here in ATL.
Yes.
Has both cities really shown up in your mindset of how you put your music together? Like, do we hear that in your music?
Yeah, I definitely feel like me being out here in Atlanta helped me with making records. Because when I first came here, a lot of people say, "Oh, you're so lyrical. You could do this. You could do that. You gotta numb it down. You gotta give us a good chorus." And as you be here and you start working with producers, I kind of learned how to make records better. I start to get my niche. Of course, the lyricalness is there. I have the ability to make great records. But then, like I said, being in Atlanta, it helped me to start making better records because of the choruses and stuff like that, from being around great artists and great producers and stuff like that. So is it important to you, though, to still keep it true to your roots? You know what I'm saying? Because you New York to heart. Right. But you bring a different twist to it now that you're an ATLian. Right, definitely. Okay. ATL definitely a part of the. I done been adopted. They show me love out here. That's one thing about Atlanta, boy. They will absolutely wrap their arms around you and embrace you. I felt that too moving here. Absolutely. What made you move out here? Well, I had an opportunity. Some guys reached out to me. One of my old managers, he reached out to me, Big Z. He heard some of the records that I had, and basically had me come out to some showcases. And after seeing me perform and seeing the records that I had, they decided to basically bring me to Atlanta, and I did like a production situation, management situation, and we just was working. It felt good, like, you know, when he was hearing the records, and the interest was there, and it just felt like at the time in New York, it's a lot going on. I just felt like it was a new chapter, new beginning.
Absolutely.
In life.
Listen, sometimes we do need that fresh start, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like we don't ever forget where we came from.
Right.
But I feel like oftentimes we got to leave where we're from in order to put on where we're from, if that makes sense. Because sometimes where we from, our people don't get behind us until they see other people in other areas getting behind us. Have you experienced that? Like some of the people back home that maybe weren't quite on board are on board now that they see you out here in Atlanta making moves?
It was when I first left, I could honestly say, like, that statement that Jay-Z said, they try to play you, then they wave at you. Marcy to Madison Square. Like, I feel like that's a real statement, because when I first started rapping, you know, the love wasn't all the way there, but I still was beginning. I was still perfecting the craft. But as they start seeing me doing tours, and they start seeing records blossoming and going on the radio and just doing major things, the respect level, and they start going from calling me my real name to all of a sudden they don't even remember my real name. It's just yo, Al Cole was good, yo. So it's definitely, it takes time though. It takes time to grow on people, and they got to see it's real, because so many people say they do it, and then the next thing you know, they quit.
Exactly.
So I feel like when people start realizing, they start seeing like, oh, this is for real. Like, he's really working with certain people, he's really doing this, that, and the third. I felt like the respect level built up, and they start to have more love and start to see, like, basically a lot of people even behind the scenes, they may not do it all in public, but then I start getting like the DMs and the messages like, yo, you inspired me, and I'm seeing what you've been through in this last 8 to 10 years. A lot of people haven't even did that where we from, and just keep going. So those be the things that motivate me and keep me going. Absolutely.
Did you experience that kind of like where they weren't on board more from people who were not in the industry that were around you? Like maybe you had some cousins or family members, they're not in the industry. Or did you experience from people that were in the industry and they weren't really believing at first?
I would say probably just personal people.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, you know what, I think where we come from in New York, I feel like it's like a dog eat dog mentality. I feel like it's like everybody raps on every block. I feel like it's what makes you think you're gonna be special. There's only certain great ones that ever made it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's a billion people rapping. What makes you think you're gonna be the next whoever?
Absolutely. Would you say that right now in the Bronx, there's a lot of unity within hip hop?
I believe. I'm even happy to see it. I've been seeing a lot of New York artists is working with each other again. I mean, that for a second, I feel like that faded for a little bit. It wasn't like that. I feel like the South was showing love, and they were working with each other and supporting. And I feel like New York, we be having those boundaries sometime where it's like, well, if you from Brooklyn, they over there, or you from Staten Island, or you from the Bronx or Uptown or Harlem, or you from Yonkers, is a divide. But I feel like lately in this last few years, I feel like New York has been definitely embracing each other and showing love and doing more records with each other and showing more unity.
I love that. I feel like that's so important, especially because, you know, it's different cities, different areas, but it's still New York.
Right.
Y'all in the same state, you know, come together, show each other some love, because I feel like we can grow faster when that unity is there and we're uplifting and pushing each other.
Right.
But sadly, not everybody has that mentality.
Right.
So you've been described as a risk taker, a hustler. You got that hustler mentality. What do you feel like has been the biggest risk that you've had to personally take in order to, you know, really pursue your music career?
I mean, when I picked up and left New York, it's like I'm leaving everything behind.
Yeah.
You know, I just feel like just that whole mentality, you know, people be afraid to leave home. when they're comfortable.
Yeah.
So that was, I left my life behind me. I didn't know what to expect. You know, it's like, you know, you grow up in the Bronx and your family from Queens and you got family in Harlem. It's like, that's all you really know. You know, I had family in the South, but I didn't grow up with them. So it was just, that was a big risk, and just not even knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like that was a big risk. I mean, you know, I done took a lot of flights not knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I done hopped on a lot of Greyhound buses not knowing where the next dollars was coming from, and you just hoping to see what's going to happen before I ever even been in great situations.
And thank you for being transparent about that, because people need to hear that. Because at the end of the day, you're a human being, I'm a human being. We all go through stuff.
Right.
There was times when I transitioned out of the corporate world into doing this, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my car note. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not embarrassed to talk about that, because I went from making a whole lot of money to not knowing where that next dollar was going to come from.
Right.
But we figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You figure out the hustles.
Right.
Like I said, even one of my new managers who done put me in great position, my manager Akon, I learned even a lot of things from him. Like, you know, you just, once you start getting around people and you see how to hustle, you see how to maintain and still living your own life and living your own lifestyle and be comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about. You got to make sure, as long as the money coming in, you know, and you comfortable, because it gets hard when you ain't making no money. You can't concentrate. You can't make records.
Listen, and I know I'm not a man, but I know for men, it weighs on them even more than it does a woman. Because a man, you know, you want to be a leader. You want to be a protector. You want to be a provider. And it's like, if the funds aren't right, I know I've experienced this in being in past relationships, it can really weigh on you, on your mental. Like, you can't think about nothing else.
Right.
And that could really weigh on you, like you said, on the creative process of making your music as well.
Definitely.
Is Al part of the government name?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So where did you ain't gotta tell us the whole name? You know what I'm saying?
I don't mind. Like,
is it Albert?
No. It's not Albert. So it's Alex.
Oh, it's
but
Alex.
Like I said,
okay.
the way the name came about, honestly, I just felt like originally everybody from my neighborhood where I'm from in the Bronx used to call me Ace.
I got
They
you.
call me A Boogie. And then eventually there was Ace Hood that came out.
Yeah, shout out. That's my homie, man. Big shout out to Ace Hood.
So it was an Ace Hood. Yeah, that's crazy. I actually been around Ace Hood in the club a couple times, like in live in Miami and stuff like that. One time when I was around Akon.
He lives up here now too.
For real?
Wow. Actually, we work out at the same gym, so I see him often.
That's funny. One time I was with Akon at Club Live and stuff, and it was like me, Akon. It was like Ace Hood. It was some of the dudes from the Chicago Bulls. It was just crazy that night.
Liddy.
I'll never forget. Yeah, Akon. That's the big bro. That's like my mentor. You know. So
well, let's.
But not to cut you off. I'm about to say, to get back to the name.
Yeah.
Basically, how the name came about. Certain people start having a name. Ace Hood came.
Yeah.
And I was hearing from the creeks that it was an A Boogie with the hoodie.
Yeah.
So at the time, it was just more of I wanted to go with my real name, basically.
Yeah.
So, you know, certain things about me is like my pops, and certain things about me is like my mom's or whatever. So, you know, the hustle in me is probably like my pops. My pops, they used to call him Big Al. So that's why I got the Al, because he left from the South to go to New York when he was like 18. It's kind of similar. I left from New York to go to the South to try to take my life to another level. You know, so the risk taking and the hustle in me comes from him. But then on the other side, my mom's used to be a singer before she got pregnant with my sister. And, you know, and she, like the culture side, the flashy, like everybody always told my moms and all my aunts and stuff to be fly, wearing minks and stuff. They going to school with 50 and going to school like my aunts used to grow up with LL Cool J. So that's where the co side of it came, because that's my mom's maiden name. So I just threw it together. Like Al Co.
Listen, and it's catchy too. I feel like it's really catchy. It stands out. And I feel like that's one of the most important things as an artist is you gotta, when you choose your name, you want to choose something that's not like what everybody else has. You want to make it stand out. And if you go to Google, no one else is going to pop up under that name. Little things like that matter. Makes a big difference. 100%. Definitely. So you've been on stage. You've shared the stage. You've opened up. You've shared the stage for a lot of big names in the industry.
Definitely have.
Let's brag about that for just a minute. So we've got people like, of course, Benny the Butcher.
Yes, definitely. I went on tour with Benny, some of them West Coast dates. That was a good experience.
Yeah.
He got a big he got a big online. I mean, he has a big fan base. Period. Just being out there and seeing those kids saying those records word for word was also inspiring. Because for a while, you know, sometimes they put on that there's that thought that, oh, you can't really do it if it's just so hip hop. Like, you gotta have this the catchy South records. And being around Benny and his team, BSF, and all of them in the Griselda family or whatever, I was just starting to see that this is still real. They still love this. Like, they saying it word for word. So that was good experience. I went on the road with Outkast, Big Boy. That was a great experience. I had, you know, back a few years back, I had a record called She a Freak that went like top 10 in the country, top selling singles, and it was on there for a while. And at that point, my old manager was very close with his manager. I don't know if his manager or his business partner, Miss Janice, but you know, through the grapevines, they used to play poker and stuff together. So I remember when I first moved down here, it was definitely like not the ignore factor, but I walk in the room, but it was like she's just in a whole nother zone. It was like, yo, this is Al Cold. Like, all right, y'all ready to play cards? But once that record started hitting on the radio and the Coalition DJs was playing the record, and the record was starting to play in different cities all over the country, it was, you know, things starting to loosen up. I guess she happened to be from the Bronx as well, so that cracked the ice.
That was the icebreaker right there.
She was from my side of the Bronx. I guess she was from the Valley or somewhere not too far from the Uptown, from like Edenwald and Co-op and everywhere. But long story short, she was like, yo, maybe I'll try you. I ain't even put you on the road with Big Boy. Let's see what's going on. And I was definitely thankful for that. If I never even said that, I never even said that before, but want to thank her, she definitely, at that moment, had me on the road with Big Boy, a lot of shows and stuff, like good experience. You know, they rock and roll Hall of Famers. Outkast is legendary. Like, and it's crazy. That's the first beat I ever probably wrote a rhyme to was an Outkast beat, International Player. Man. And then it was like a dream. It's like I'm on the stage and I'm around him and we on the tour bus and George Clinton in there. It's crazy. You know, it's just like time be flying, but it's like that was a moment that I'll always remember forever.
Of course.
That was the beginning when I start feeling like this could actually, this is something real that I could do. That
was a defining moment for you. Definitely. And I feel like we have those moments and we're going to remember it forever. So let me ask you this, being that you were on stage with Big Boy, who's definitely from the South, you from up north. Right. How did you prepare yourself for the crowd that was coming to see Big Boy, but you out there rocking it too?
Well, I had a strategy. I always had a strategy. I knew a lot of people that do music and had performing shows and stuff. So I basically, you know, the record that I was pushing, She a Freak, was more of a South record.
Got you. Makes sense.
But also, like, the first record I came out with was probably, like, it was like a freestyle of whatever was the hottest record in the South. Because you got to break the ice. Yes. You know, when you in front of a crowd of 10, 15,000 people and they don't know you yet, it's good to give their ears something they recognize. Give them a little 45 to 1 minute, then go into the main single and just concentrate. And that's what I was doing. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Because, you know, people can be kind of fickle when it comes to that, especially if they're there to see one artist. But that's a great way for someone like yourself to break in and build a whole new fan base. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like you're the type of artist that can adapt to that. Definitely. Some artists won't. Right. They want it's their way or the highway. And it's like, you know, 2 Chainz said, get on board or get left behind. And I feel like we have to keep that mentality in a lot of situations. Keep it true to yourself, but be adaptable to different situations.
Right. Now, definitely, that's why, like, even around that time when I first started coming to the A, like, seeing artists like French Montana from the Bronx, the way he was able to navigate and stuff like that with great international records. Some records be New York, certain records be Atlanta or the South, or the same thing with Meek Mill. Like, he's from the East Coast and he goes crazy. He's lyrical, but he'll still give you that record that people in Atlanta is saying word for word, or in Florida. So that was kind of becoming the mind state, as in, okay, I'm going to show them I could rap, but I'm going to also show them I make records that they could stand on the couch and want to say my records word for word too.
I feel like that is what separates artists like yourself from others. That's what makes you a superstar, is because again, you could make a little bit of something for everybody.
Right.
You got to have the records for the ladies because they're going to probably be your biggest fan base. Let's just keep it G. So maybe it's something for the strip clubs because Atlanta, there's strip clubs everywhere out here.
Right.
And I feel like that's a great place to break records is in the strip club. When I moved here, my first hosting gig was at Magic City. I hosted there every week for a couple years, and I used to see all the superstars come through there.
Right.
And of course, during those times, the independent artists like, can you play my record? Can you play my record? You know what I'm saying? Because we got Future in the building. We got Thug in the building. So them strip clubs, is that something that you have as well? You got any records for the strip clubs?
Yeah, I got some records coming up. I got a good record called Run It Up. When the time is right, I'm going to definitely be dropping it for the South. And got some other records on this project, this upcoming project I got called Cosign.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that is, I feel like 80% of it, 70% of it is going to be musical, but I'm still going to give those records that feel good for where I'm at currently. You know, I don't want to leave that out the box and put myself in the box where you lose out on gaining a fan in Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia or North Carolina, South Carolina. So, you know, just definitely stepping out of that box and just trying to make music for everybody.
Makes perfect sense, 100%. So you mentioned this record called She a Freak. It hit the Billboard.
Yes.
First and foremost, congratulations. That's a major accolade. It stayed there for 18 weeks. Am I correct on that?
Yes, 18 weeks.
How did that feel to see your name on the Billboard chart? Is that something you ever fathomed that would happen?
At the beginning, I didn't know if it was possible. I was confident in myself, but when I seen it on there for 18 weeks, it just let me know, like, when I'm seeing my name along, like, Usher's record or Chris Brown's record or CeeLo's record, it just made me feel like, wow, this is real. And you know, the record was picking up heavy. The record actually, it didn't make it up top to like New York, but it was getting a lot of love. Mississippi's, and Alabama's, and Georgia's, and Savannah's, and a lot of markets on the outskirts and stuff like that. And it was just amazing to go to those cities and see the fans actually knowing the words and just knowing the record and loving the chorus. It's an amazing feeling. It's like that high that you try to chase. If you know, for those addicts that have that, it's like I've never, but it's like chasing that forever.
Nah, facts. It's a very surreal moment. So let me ask you this, being that you've accomplished that major accolade, how much pressure does it put on you to do it again?
I mean, it makes me want to do it even more.
Yeah,
I want to do it in the records and the music that I love as well. So, and I just felt like at that point when I had that record, I feel like I was just young, and I feel like now I done perfected my craft. I feel like now I'm in my bag more. So I feel like those moments are going to happen again. 100%.
And it will. It will. Do you believe in manifestation?
I do.
Do you speak positive affirmations like into your life?
I do. I really do feel like that is, I do believe in that. It's funny because when I, not to go back, when I came to Atlanta originally, the person who brought me to Atlanta was like working for Akon's brother, like with Omar and Boo, and they was doing stuff like whatever the case was, showcases and just grinding. And that was originally the plan for me to go like and work with Akon then, because he's such a legendary artist.
Yes.
And it's crazy. Years went by. You just learn the game, have records on the radio, travel, go on tours, Wayne, everybody with Young Money. You just start doing things, and it didn't happen. And then I came out with another record, and my new manager, Laco, put the record in Akon's hand. He hears the record, and next thing you know, we just building, and we going in the studio, and he's becoming my mentor. We running around with him a little bit. He's showing us the game and just showing me what's out there. With times when I was out there with my guy Feature, we was out in L.A. with Akon going to the All-Star game and Double Cup Love. But it's just experiences that you never forget, because the average independent artist sometimes will never even get a chance to step in a room with somebody who sold 40 million records.
That is facts. And Akon, to me, he's a legend.
Big heart, good dude.
I've never met him, but I've watched a lot of clips from interviews and stuff he's done. And one thing I really got from Akon is he's super intelligent, number one.
Yes.
Two, he be dropping them gems.
Right.
What is a gem that he dropped on you that changed how you move in this music industry?
He told me one time we was in the studio, he told me, don't put yourself in the box. If you feel your vocals could go to that lane of where he said you have a certain texture of a voice where you don't always have to rap. You can hit a melody.
Let me hear one real quick.
I don't even.
I'm just kidding.
I don't want to do it. You know, you get in that zone, little cup, it comes out. Woo.
You need some pimp juice? Like, what's good?
I might need that. But he told me, he said, don't stay in the box. Like, you know, if you can do this, if you can make these type of records, whether it's a melody or you good at making these records, these South records also, don't just put yourself in a box where you just, people only want to hear you in the Bronx and Harlem. Don't do that. And it's crazy. Like, you know, like working with him, I remember the first time me and him did a song. And it's crazy. That record's about to come out soon in a little bit. But I remember when he went in the booth and he did the record, it was like he started working on the record and it took him like 4 minutes. He just went in the booth and this
got busy.
And the chorus was done. And I just remember after that, I had to, you know, you're still learning. So, you know, sometimes you could be a little nervous too.
Yeah.
I didn't finish my verse in the 5-10 minutes. And I remember him telling me, like, yo, don't worry about it. I'm not even going to say all the legends that I did records with. And it took them 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Sometimes just take your time on the record. So I took my time on it. I laid it down and then I had to lay it down again or whatever the case is. But I remember seeing him do that. I remember one time I was in the studio with one of my road managers, Feature. And I remember we went in the studio in Staten Island, and I literally, probably right after that, I laid a record down in like 5 minutes. First time ever. But it was just like, it was like you get inspired and then you get in the zone. And it was like, when I did that, that's when I started realizing, like, okay, I got a pocket. I just really laid down a record that could possibly be a hit in like 4 minutes. This is something that's real. And it just made me just keep building this craft and perfecting it.
Absolutely. Do you think some of that comes from kind of taking the pressure off yourself and stop overthinking situations where now you go to being able to lay it down in 5 minutes? Because I know artists are hard on themselves.
Yeah, and it depends on the record.
Yeah.
Like if it's a record where I got to be conscious, I don't just write it in like 5 minutes. Sometimes I like to chill with a record and just let the beat play for like an hour, and I'll just go in the booth and do it. Or if it's like that kind of record that just gives me a vibe, sometimes I can go in there and lay a verse down. And there's been certain artists that paid me for a feature, and I went in the booth and just did the verse, like right there.
Yeah.
You know, so it just depends on what's motivating me at the time. Sometimes my mind could be somewhere else, and I got to get in that zone and just hear that record. I might got to drive in the Benz real quick and throw that in there.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I got it.
Do you ever physically write, or have you ever physically, like pen to paper?
I used to. When I first started, when I was in the Bronx, living uptown, that's when I first started, I used to write my rhymes on paper.
Do you still got any of that? Like that? You don't know what happened to it?
My mom sometimes, she be keeping stuff.
Moms do that.
She had the other day I walked to the house, she's like, do you remember this? This is like your first cover. I was like, Ma, put this away.
She's so proud of you though.
Right, but it'd be funny when you see yourself from like 8 years or 9 years ago, or even 12 years ago.
That elevation.
It's like even like this, the elevation, and just how you look and how your brand looks and stuff like that. It just be like, wow, it's a journey.
What about with your sound? I know everything is a journey. It's all about that elevation. Do you feel like if you go back and listen to one of your records from a decade ago to versus now, your actual sound has elevated a lot?
Sounds completely different.
Completely different.
I feel like then I still was finding myself.
Yeah.
I could hear the inspiration that like a certain artist that was, you know, I sounded like myself, but I felt like I could hear certain artists that were inspiring me at that time, that I'm not gonna say their names, but certain artists that might have been superstars in Florida, that my record, the way my flow was, it went in that direction and then I took it my way. Or even certain artists just in the South that, you know, I was rapping a certain way, and now I feel like, my sound's completely different now.
It's probably more versatile as well.
It is.
Which that's going to gain you a bigger audience, a bigger fan base.
Nah, definitely.
100%. Let's talk about, you had the opportunity to perform in front of course, the late, great, long live Rico Wade and Snoop Dogg. Them saying to you, you got something special, man. You know, take us to that moment in time.
That was just another moment. I remember that was even like before. That's crazy. Me and Money Man was there. We both performed or whatever the case was. But I remember that was before he blew up to the world.
Yeah.
You know, we both was performing and stuff. But it's crazy. Those was two different funky events. One of them was a coalition event, and another one was Funky was a DJ. But I just remember the one with Snoop. Snoop walked up to me in the section afterwards, and he was just like, "You got it, nephew. You got something special. You know, you got to keep going." He's just telling me little jewels. Like, I remember when I was working with Dr. Dre, I never could imagine that before. You know, like, I'm in the studio working with him. He just said, "Stay on your path, and you got something special." And he said, "I just don't say that to say that. Like, I'm just letting you know you got something." The same thing with Rico Wade. He walked up to me, and I remember I was performing, and he was just like, "Yeah, you got something, kid. You got it." And I just remember just thinking to myself, like, this is the guy who's a part of a lot of people's careers. Like,
that's the whole Dungeon family right there. You know,
it definitely was a moment for me to know. Those is moments where it pushes me harder to know that people in the culture that matter, that everybody loves, is their interest. They like what I'm doing. Like, at the end of the day, Rico Wade's a legend. Snoop is considered maybe the top, if not the best artist from the West Coast.
I
maybe
agree.
The top 2 or 3. You know, I would have said Pac, but then that's a soft spot because I feel sometimes like he's still one of us, even though he claims the West Coast and he lived there for like 6 months in LA and lived a couple years in the Bay. From what I've know, a lot of my big homies from in the Bronx and in Harlem used to tell me he lived in the Bronx and Harlem for like a little more than half his life before he went to Baltimore. Right. So I feel like, you know, I understand it though, because when I moved to the A, I know how fast it can go. It could go from, you know, like what, you know, I could see how that could go. Because when I moved to Atlanta, it was like, yo, it's not where you from. It's where you at. You don't gotta, you can't, you want to rep this New York. So it was like I stopped really doing a whole bunch of that and just being an artist, because, you know, and when they helping you and, you know, you start feeling that way. So I can understand Tupac being from Bronx and Harlem and growing up into a teenager and then moving to Baltimore, and then when you move to the West Coast and Suge Knight cutting that check. And then, you know, he got shot in New York. After a while, you start feeling like you got enemies and stuff. So it's like, you got to ride with who riding with you.
No, that
if the Bay is showing you love and they showing you culture, and then you get to L.A. and Suge and Snoop and them is holding you down and you running around, you becoming the biggest you ever became. Yeah, it's West Side. I get it.
Absolutely. And there's going to be people who don't agree with that, but that's okay. We can leave them people where they're at.
Right.
Let me ask you this. You know, speaking of Rico Wade, when I moved to Atlanta, he was one of the first people I got to interview. And it was so legendary. And one of the questions I asked him was, what do you feel like a lot of artists are missing that they should be doing on the come up? And he said promo and marketing. That hit home with me because I feel like that is one of the most important things.
Right.
How does that work into your campaign, you know, as far as promo and marketing? How important is that to you?
I mean, it's definitely important. Like, you know, me coming from a time where before the social media really blew up and everything was just completely different, I was already mentally trained when I came down here. You know, when you drop in the project, we gotta make sure we go into all the markets, do the a Chitlin tour, basically, you know, like do radio interviews in every market, shake every hand, meet people, meet the DJs, let's build. What events you got going on? I'll take shorts, just throw me something. I'm gonna pull up in the club, we're gonna perform. Whatever I need to do, because I feel like, you know, these DJs are very important. You know, you gotta build with them. It is not just sometimes you can't even just, you gotta let your managers talk for you too, but you gotta build your own relationships, because these relationships that lives on forever. And that's one thing one of my guys was telling me back in the days. He said, when you do go to Atlanta, make sure you network. That's the most important thing. Yeah. Those relationships that you build from this time is going to be the relationships that you still have. And it's crazy. All the people who I, like, when I started really getting serious in music, now they're A&Rs at the major labels. Now they're the program directors at the radio stations. Now they controlling. So it makes it even easier. And they've seen my growth and they've seen where I came from. So it even makes them want to work also with me. Like, damn, I remember when you first had that record and you was moving around. So I think it's very important to make sure you get all your press possible, do all your interviews with everybody. Every outlet counts.
I agree. You have to literally put especially when you're in a new city.
Definitely.
When I first moved here, I was everywhere. Then eventually you got to scale back a little bit because you can kind of water your brand down. But what I've learned is that building those relationships will put you into places and rooms that money cannot.
Right.
There's some places you can't buy your way into, but if you got a relationship, you can walk through that door.
Nah, I agree. That's one thing. Another thing that Akon said, as you just said, to me, I remember he was saying, because I was so programmed when I came to Atlanta. There was a time where like you said, you had to be in the streets. I was in every strip club every night. Like, you know, I ain't gonna name some of the people I was around, but it was like, start off at Strokers.
Shout out to DJ Funky.
Yeah, like Funky was the first DJ to ever play my record in Atlanta. DJ Hershey was the first DJ to ever play my record on radio. But I remember just working with the coalition. It was like, start off at Strokers, then use Onyx, rest in peace to Fernando, the Magic City before Old Boy and Future took off, like the Magic City, DJ
Outlaw, perhaps?
No, the one with Future, with the hair.
Oh, what? What is
he be on the records too.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Long story, he used to be the home DJ for Magic City. So it was like every night. Exactly. I remember like I would be in like 7-8 clubs a night. Like my manager at the time would put me with these guys from Brooklyn that's doing their thing now. Some of them A&R, some of them own restaurants and clubs. But he'll put me, he's like, yo, you got to move around with them. We would be in the club every night, 6, 7, 8 clubs a night every day to a point where it just, everybody start knowing you and stuff. But now it's just like, I remember when I started running around a little bit and working with Akon and learning the game, he was to tell me like, you know, I know you like being in the streets, but you know, the bigger you become, you got to know, you got to keep yourself distant from going into the clubs because these promoters is going to lower your value and they're not going to pay you. If you're hanging out and you chilling in the section, next thing you know, they're going to be like, yo, why should I give him 10,000? Or why should I
already
give him 15?
Gonna show up.
He going to show up anyway. Just take this bottle, you know? And I get it because Atlanta is the new capital. You know, New York is the capital and it's the beginning of the birth and it is the culture, but Atlanta is the other capital. And I feel like out here, this is like these promoters, they doing their thing. So they get everybody who they want, and it's like you gotta learn to kind of stay away so you can preserve your value.
100%, because it will water you down. So you know, you gotta scale back. I feel like you said, there's steps and stages to it.
Definitely.
In the beginning, you gotta be out there, but then you gotta scale back because you know you want people to book you and pay you your worth. You know what I'm saying? You've worked hard. Let's switch gears a little bit over to the film side. You've had roles with people like Columbus Short.
Definitely.
Shout out to my dog Trey Chaney. That's the homie right there.
Trey Chaney, a good dude. BMF was going crazy and everything.
Yeah, The Wire.
Columbus Short, he definitely good guy. He actually really motivated me to jump more into acting. You know, he's a cool dude. We became close on the set for the movie for Scott Free. It's crazy. Rest in peace to the director. The director was just killed a couple months ago.
Man, that's
in a barbershop, and it's crazy because the movie was about karma. It's a lot of stuff going on, but you know, rest in peace to that guy, Abdullah. But yeah, while I was on the set with Columbus Short, and me and him became somewhat cool. I guess he at first, you know, we was just, you know, it was just like he's the star in the movie. Yeah. So you know, at first, you know, we wasn't really talking, but then we became cool, and he started seeing how much I was involved, and then, you know, I let them use like 1 or 2 of my cars in the movie, so he like, okay, I got the same car, like I got that S5, like, you know what I mean? So we became cool, but I could say being on set with him really motivated me to start acting, because there's levels to this, you know, regardless of what has happened in the past or whatever press he has had. Like when I see him on the set, I could tell the difference between him and other actors. Sure. Like when he zones out and he gets into that character, it's just like, damn, like I gotta really, let me get my acting coach together. Let me step it up a little bit, yeah. And he, you know, so that's why I say I will say I'll give him that credit that he definitely motivated me to start being in the film industry more and more.
That is amazing. Let me ask you this: with the films that you have been in, that you know, did you have roles in the beginning where maybe you were an extra and then you worked your way up to some speaking roles?
I definitely did.
Yeah, that's where everybody starts, I think.
The first movie with Columbus Short, I kept showing up to the set because at this time, me and my manager Laco.
Y'all gonna put me in this movie.
At the time, my manager Laco, we was on tour with Trina, and it was like some tour. The tour just started, so we're going back and forth between the tour and the film, and I never forget. I kept coming to the set. I just kept coming to the set every day, like I wanted to learn. Yeah. And I was like, yo, whatever you need. You want to use my car? You want to what y'all need? Like I was a team player, and I worked my way into having like 1 or 2 talking parts in the movie. Yeah. Somebody that showed up late, Columbus like, yo, let Cole do it.
See?
It happened just like that. And then the director at that time was cool as well. So, you know, he worked it out where I got little cameos in the scenes. Me and DJ Holiday There's
That's
certain
hard.
scenes. That's DJ Holiday, my brother. That's my guy, or whatever case is. But yeah, like that first film, I definitely wasn't supposed to have a part, and I because I was determined to be on the set, I earned a part. And the next movie, the movie that just came out, that's going a little viral, like online, a movie called Fatal. My guys, they reached out to me and we got it done, and movie doing good. But then it just, like you said, it just led to me even wanting to be a part of other projects. I got some other projects in the works, some nice movies and some nice TV shows that's coming that just is keeping me motivated, keeping me on my toes.
Man, congratulations on all that, because I feel like as an artist, getting into film is a great way to go because it's all a part of the entertainment industry.
Definitely.
And it could open a lot more doors for you. And by you just pulling up to that set every day when you didn't have to be there showed a lot about who you are.
Right.
They're like, man, his work ethic is through the roof. We got to do something with this guy.
Right.
So the roles that you have had where you had to speak, were they somewhat improv, or did you have to stick to the script word for word?
Well, in the movie Fatal, that was my act. They had actual parts they wanted me to say. The first movie, we kind of like
Improv'd it, yeah.
We improv and stuff like that. But I just, like I say, the film industry, you know, like, and then I see certain people in the music industry like T.I. that inspires me, and 50 Cent. Like, they seeing how they involved with TV and movies and stuff like that. Like 50, it's one of that's my favorite album of all time, Get Rich or Die Trying.
Yeah.
But seeing how he transitions with the power and being executive producers and stuff like that is something that I see that interests me, that I want to be involved in, act in the movie, be an executive producer in the film, produce this, do that. So, you know, definitely, you know, just trying to stay on my toes and sharpen up and prepare myself for what's coming.
50 is one of them people that will damn sure keep you on your toes. Boy, I never know what to expect from him on Instagram, boy.
Right.
He ain't got no filter, and
Definitely.
I love it. I love it.
He go at anybody who we feel is not loyal.
He will.
He'll go overboard, but it is what it is. I mean, but you know, the things that he's doing now, he's always been doing that, though.
Of course.
Like, you know, even back then, if you go against him, he's gonna make it known, whether it was Fat Joe, whether it was Jada Kiss. But you know, Jada and them, I think he realized, like, now these guys from Yonkers is a little different.
Nah, facts.
But it's like saying, like, he don't care who it is. Like, I see what he's doing now with the BMF show, and even how he's going at, you know, the guys. This man, I hope they work that out. But
I
like
hope
you said,
so too.
You know,
that's one of my favorite shows. Y'all got to keep going with the BMF show. Would you want to be a part of, and not necessarily even BMF, but you know, any of these series out there? Would you want to do like an ongoing series?
Yeah, I'm definitely, like, I'm actually starting to get into acting classes now and trying to step it up. And yeah, I definitely want to be on one of these legendary TV series shows and stuff. I think that's a part of the bucket list.
Absolutely. You're also involved in trucking and Airbnb.
Yeah, I have a trucking business, and I make money off Airbnb stuff. And I'm just like I said, I'm just a broker. I broker deals. I'm a hustler. There's certain things you get from being around certain people you involved with. From my team, they've been hustling. My guy been hustling, coming out of Yonkers and Harlem since back in the day. So me getting around him, you know, he certain things rubs off. But yeah, I always keep my hands in different pots.
So with you doing so many different things, you know, trucking, Airbnb, film, music, and I'm sure there's other things as well, how do you like balance all that without burning yourself out?
Well, one thing I will say, I feel like too much of one thing will make you not want to do it. It becomes repetitive. So sometimes I have moments where, you know, I'm just focused on the bag, and then it might be 2-3 weeks later, I might get in the studio and record like 5 or 7 records.
Got you.
I already have a lot of records. I dropped a few projects, and I got an upcoming project coming, but I don't really like to overload myself.
Yes.
Like, you know, I let it come to me. Like, producers send me records all the time. I may not respond to them. I may listen to the records and say, okay, I like those 4 records. I'm going to get those done in the next, 2 weeks, next week.
Yeah.
And like I said, I just balance it. I make sure the bag is coming in, because without the bag, you can't survive.
That is facts. That's facts.
So it's like, I make sure the bag is
that's got to be right.
Right. And then after that, you know, with the businesses and stuff, like I said, I don't be on the road. I have drivers. You feel what I'm saying? We have people clean up the Airbnb stuff, and sometimes, like, you know what I mean? Like, I have different people that work for me in those areas, so I don't let it take up a lot of my time, but, you know, there's a balance.
Absolutely. You have to have people around you, whether it's a team or employees, that you can delegate stuff to.
Right.
If you try to do could you imagine if you was having there to clean up them Airbnbs and drive the trucks, you wouldn't have time to do this music stuff.
Once upon a time when I first came to Atlanta, I was on probation for 3 years for something that had happened like back. I got caught up with some work and stuff. Some pounds or whatever it was. It was illegal stuff. I end up having a little situation, and the judge gave me a second chance. I ended up being on probation for 3 years, but I had to have a job when I came to Atlanta, and I just never forget how I felt. If sometimes it felt like it was draining me. Yeah. Like, you know, like working the job and then actually, and it wasn't like I needed the bread, but my probation officer was on me like, yo, you gave us some fake paperwork. The next time I'm gonna violate you. So it's like, and then
go get you a job.
Right. But then eventually I feel like it became uncomfortable a little bit, the job situation, because I remember there was people at the job that had, you know, the internet's out and everything's going on. They're like, oh, I see you with Lil Wayne's artist and you're on this tour and you on the internet, like going on these tours and stuff like that, and you driving these cars. Why are you here? And it starts to make you feel uncomfortable. Like, regardless, I ain't gonna tell you I'm on probation, but why I just can't make money and chase my dream at that time, you know? And there was one time I actually got fired from the last job I ever worked. At that time when I had the probation. Last job, when it just happened that my probation was just about to end. But I was appreciate that by the grace of God, whatever the case was. But I'll never forget, I went to DC to open up for a certain rap artist. I think it was like around Howard Homecoming, and then it was another show in like New York and in Philly, or whatever the case was. But somehow I didn't even know people from the job like had my information, but they was like, oh, well, you said you was sick, but this footage shows you in the background of this rapper and this rapper. We're gonna have to let you go. And I was just like,
I was sick. I wasn't feeling good during that time, but
and I was like, I'll never allow anybody to fire me ever again.
That is
start
facts.
my own business.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Now let's
make my own schedule.
Let's
we gotta get on the road. They say, yo, we got to go to L.A., we out.
I want to put a slight disclaimer on that, though. If you're an artist just starting out, don't quit your job.
Right.
Don't
you need that money.
You need that money until you get to the point where you can fund your entire life off of this.
Right.
You know, but it is the ultimate goal to be able to walk away from that 9 to 5, because I did it myself, and it was the best decision I ever made.
I feel the same way.
I can't see myself clocking in for someone else again.
Definitely.
100%. Let's talk about this project that you got coming up, the co-sign with Dame Grease. You're working with Dame Grease on the project.
Yeah, Dame Grease produced one of the records. I got Ricky Rags. I got a whole bunch of great producers on this project.
Yeah.
This project means a lot to me. I feel like it's a step into the next chapter. You know, I got the record right now that's on the radio that a lot of DJs is picking up. The record Stop Hating, Get Money, featuring Benny the Butcher. And I got some other big artists on there. You know, you might see that Akon record. Or, you know, it might come a little after. But I got a few big records on there, and this project means a lot to me. It's telling my story from the gate. It's telling a lot of things I went through in New York. It's telling a lot of things I went through in Atlanta. It's telling my story, how I had to level up, that's how I even came with the project name Cosign, because the cosign is a little different. Since my name is Al Co with the C-O-E, the cosign is C-O-E-S-I-G-N.
Yeah, because when I first looked at it, I was like, is it Co-E-sign? But then I was like, no, it's his name, Cosign. I
had to cosign myself.
Listen,
sometimes you could be around a lot of big artists and a lot of big superstars, and, you know, you could be like, you know, I was running around with everybody, and shout out to everybody who I've been around, you know. But like I said, like, eventually, sometimes you can even get lost in that. Yeah. Being in somebody's entourage or being that artist, and then it's like it's not really about you. You're just there. You there in the club, and it's cool until you start to realize sometimes you can get detoured. So I feel like eventually that's when I realized in order for Al Co to become a superstar or a worldwide name, I gotta co-sign myself.
I agree.
I gotta step away from being around or following some of the big dogs and just being my own light.
That's one of the biggest pieces of advice that Bigger gave me. Bigger's like, it's cool to be around other people who have a name and, you know, maybe kind of get your name out there through them, but you want to have something you can stand on your own with.
And that's how I was feeling. I just was feeling like, you know, I got to make my own mark in this game.
Yes.
You know, I've been around so many legends, working with them, being on stages, festivals, everything, you know, all the biggest DJs, and I'm still growing. I still want to work with even the bigger DJs that I haven't even got to yet. Yeah. But it's like I start to realize I wanted to have my own team, create my own company, La Family, you know, and me and my business partner / manager, Laco, and Feature, my guy E-Map, and, you know, Double Cup Love. You know, I had to build a team.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. Like, it's just, we have the same goals. We have to figure it out. People that's gonna be there for me day in, day night. I mean, day in, day out. You know, whether one of my managers can't be there, my other manager's there.
Yeah.
Whether, you know, if I gotta go to New York, I'm from New York, so I have a certain team that's out there.
Yeah.
Certain people in Miami. It's just building a team that's just for me. That's how I feel. Like, you know, walking in my own lane.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. The project itself, when can we anticipate it?
It's coming like in maybe about a month.
Okay.
Around a month. I'm not sure. We thinking like a month or two. Somewhere in between. It's coming.
Coming soon.
It's coming. Right now, this record with me and Benny the Butcher, Stop Hating, Get Money, SHGM. That's the phrase. We just focus on that, and I'm about to start dropping new records leading up to the project. You just never know. You might just get an email that the project's out. Cosign.
Let me ask you this. Are you calling it a mixtape or an album?
Nah, I'm going to call it neither. I'm just going to call it a project.
Project, okay.
It is a mixtape, but it is like an album. And it's like, honestly, it's worth more than a mixtape.
Yeah, that's why.
Because it's like some of these artists that's on my records are big artists. Like,
Yes.
there's regular artists just can't get these people on songs. Like, these dudes is big artists that sold lots of records. Or even some of these producers. I got, like I said, even Dame Grease and certain other ones, not to name everybody, but they sold so many records, people just don't have access to get these kind of records. So I don't really want to call it a mixtape, but I don't really want to call it an album because it's not my first album. We've been working, we've been cooking. I got some great records for the album coming, but this is going to be a nice project.
I love it.
We're going to keep it there.
Absolutely. What is the legacy that Alco is wanting to leave through everything you're doing, your businesses, your music, your film? What legacy do you want to leave?
Stay down till you come up. Don't ever let nobody kill your dreams. Don't ever let nobody tell you can't do it. Even when people, they talk negative, I feel like sometimes you got to block that out of your head. They only talk negative because that's all they know. They've never actually seen somebody succeed where they from.
Yeah.
So I tell you, just keep pushing, stay focused, make sure you get into the money. Don't let nobody detour you. Stay down till you come up and co-sign yourself.
Let's get into that just a slightly deeper. Because a lot of people have a hard time staying focused because there's a lot of distractions out here.
Yeah.
How do you stay focused?
I focus on the bag. I focus on the music. I write things down, as my guy Feature would say. Write it down. Put it on a paper. Let's put it on the wall. Let's figure out what we doing this week. Okay, what are we doing next week? It's always what's going on next, you know. And I keep my loved ones around me, and I stay away from the weirdos.
That's
a lot of weirdos and a lot of fake people, and they tend to talk a lot. That's why we tell them stop hating, get money, figure out your life.
The people with the least amount of motion have the most to say.
That's a fact.
Y'all corny.
That's a fact.
That be the people on social media who do a lot of this. It's because they ain't got nothing else going on. They, you know.
It be the people on social media with no pictures, with like 200 followers trying to
troll,
and it's
it's
that's
corny.
why you don't even want to let people see who you really are.
No, that's facts. Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about this single. You brought it up a couple times. So Stop Hating, Get Money.
Yes.
That should be the anthem for a lifetime.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people out here who are missing out on the bag because they're too busy hating on people.
Right.
Obviously, the concept behind the song is kind of self-explanatory, but what does it mean to you specifically?
I mean, it's just, like you said, it's just basically, it's just giving that realness that, you know, keeping you on your feet. It's just like, you know, sometimes, like you say, you just get tired of just being around so many haters that talk negative because they ain't doing it for themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm just focused. I'm focused on getting to the bag. I'm focused on living good life. I'm focused on doing what maybe they not doing. So I just tell them, like, instead of talking about me in the barbershop, talk about me on the corner that you probably haven't left in a while. Stop hating and get to the bag and change your situation.
Yeah.
And it's still love, but I'm just saying in general. And like I said, one of my young bros from my block where I'm from in the Bronx and stuff, he used to always say it. He used to dance and stuff, and I used to just like, yo, I like that. And we all, like my whole block started saying it, so I felt like it was something that I wanted to do to represent where I'm from. Something that how we talk, you know?
I love it. I love it. You really represent where you're from, but I like the fact that you here and you putting on for the A as well.
Nah, definitely.
And beyond.
Atlanta's home, and New York's my home. New York's my first home. Atlanta's still home. It's I love both.
Definitely. Any other big goals that you're manifesting right now that you don't mind sharing with us?
Really, just movies, executive producing projects, more businesses. Really, that's just really it. And just focusing on my family and the loved ones.
Definitely. For people who want to follow your journey, keep up with your journey, where can they follow you online?
Alco World, ALCOE World. That's on every platform. Everything is this. And then my artist name is Alco. So if you just type in ALCOE, you'll see it pop up anywhere.
Got you. Who does Alco want to give thanks to for just loving you, supporting you through your journey?
My whole team, La Family, some of my close friends, some of my loved ones, my management team, just everybody that's ever been there for me, everybody who's ever showed me the way, anybody in the industry, all the people that's ever gave me light or helped me or pushed me, everybody, I just want to show love to the DJs. Shout out to my guy DJ Holiday. Even my, it's a collective. It's so many people. I don't want to go on. It's just, like I said, I just want to show love to everybody. And I want to show love to the fans that have been rocking with me for a long time. Like I said, when I had songs on the radio then, and I've had records who support me, who come out to the shows, who show love, who still, one time it's crazy. I end up, I get real close with the fans. Like I remember one time I was in LA with Akon, and we was about to go into the All-Star game. I never forget this kid. This kid came up to me and he started rapping for me. Well, he wanted to rap for Akon. And Akon's like, nah, rap for Alco. And I was like, yo, let me hear something. And I just never forget. It's crazy. Years went by, and then that kid came to me like later on social media, like, yo, I remember you inspired me, this, that, and the third. I remember seeing you in LA, how you was moving. Do you remember that? You was with such and such, or you was doing this, that, and the third. And I was like, wow, I do remember that. And then I end up just doing a song with him because I recognized the dedication.
That's dope.
I was just like, wow, he's like, yo, you inspired me, bro. When I went back to Philly, just seeing what you was doing and seeing how you grew from even that moment, like you never stopped and you getting bigger. I was just like, nah, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So, and that's what I do it for. I do it to inspire and, just to connect with the people.
Yeah, because you never know who you're inspiring. Sometimes they won't speak up, but just know that you're inspiring people that don't even let you know about it.
I noticed that also, especially where I'm from. A couple of kids or like teenagers and like even youngins that might be like a couple years younger than me, they may not say it in the comments, but they'll hit me, or when they see me when I come back home or I'm doing interviews in New York City or doing videos and stuff, they be like, yo, you inspired me, bro. You made me want to do it. You left New York and you did everything you said you was going to do. And I be thinking to myself, like, damn, I ain't even know you really recognize that. Man. But it's just like, those be the reasons, those be the things that keep me going.
Exactly, 100%. I got one last question for you. Where are we at, Alco? Tell them we on Industry's Most Wanted.
We on Industry Most Wanted. You already know it's your boy Alco. We get into it.
What makes you, Alco, the Industry's Most Wanted?
I mean, I'm a hard worker. I'm a grinder. I'm a hustler. We get into it. Nothing stopping. We're going to keep going.
He's a hustler, baby.
Right.
Thank you for being here.
Nah, thank you for having me.
Of course.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely. We out of here, y'all.
Old things turn to new things. Cash rules everything around me like Wu-Tang. Stop hating.